Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Ladd, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 160. We are well into our fourth year, isn't it? We're well into our fourth year of podcasting now. And we have another fantastic guest with us today, a returning guest, but a guest that we're going to talk about something a little bit different with. And we've just been having a bit of a chat, and he's got some great stuff that he's working on at the moment that sounds really, really interesting, and it's really firing up a load of kind of ideas for myself and some things I'd like to get involved in myself. So we'll talk about that in a bit. First of all, we are just myself and Pete today. So I'll welcome Pete and see what he's been up to. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm all right. This is going to be my second interview of the day, which is quite nice because I've just been up to interview one of a guy who I know runs a local recording studio, because I'm going to stick it all on the woke bath thing that I'm doing. So just get local businesses involved and stuff like that. So I went up and had a good chat with him, which was very nice. Yeah. So,
And we're recording
another podcast. I might not say
podcast.
anything in this one because I'm all talked out.
And we've got another podcast tomorrow. We possibly got two next week. So yep. We're flying at the moment. So no, it's great. So our guest today is Mr. Matt Shaw. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me back, James.
Excellent. Yeah, well, I'll just quickly say that Matt was on with us first of all. We just sort of worked out it was episode 65, so it was nearly 2 years ago when Matt was on with us. So if you haven't listened to that one, if you're a newer listener, I'd highly recommend you go back and listen to that, actually, because we really went into a lot of depth and detail about some of Matt's mountaineering adventures, which was a really kind of a podcast that kind of stands out in my mind, because it was very different, talking about the kind of the nuts and bolts of mountaineering and the kind of the emotional kind of roller coaster of that, and doing these big expeditions and things. So that was episode 65. So if you haven't listened to that, please go back and listen to that. But today we're going to have a bit of a catch up with Matt. He is doing a fluid strength and mastering mace spell fundamentals workshop in November, which we'll touch on a bit later on in the podcast. And that's going to be in Chelmsford in Essex at Unique Results on November the 12th, which will be a great day. But he's also got other things he's working on at the moment. And he's always someone who, if you don't follow him on Instagram, I'd highly recommend you follow him on there, because we'll talk a bit about this, I think, today. He's a real kind of, you see a lot of people who get not pigeonholed, but they really stick to one type of training, and they get very, very good at one type of training. And we obviously had Pat Flynn on the other week talking about being more of a generalist and becoming a robust generalist as well. And that's something that I really think Matt kind of fits into that bracket. So how are you doing, Matt? And how's life for you at the moment? I mean, 2 years ago was a long time ago when we spoke to you last. So kind of what's going on for you at the moment?
Yeah, I'm really great, thanks, James. Been really busy this year. Been kind of upping the amount of time and effort I've been putting into the business, which has been fantastic. It's really expanding nicely. Just expanding into different areas, working on some areas just to kind of reach out to bigger audiences and just keep offering lots and lots of different aspects of all of the different things that I enjoy, and then enjoy sharing with other people who then come to me to work with me in various different capacities.
I think something that kind of, I suppose, to me anyway, I may correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at from the outside, the kind of overarching theme, if you like, or the umbrella that a lot of what you do kind of encapsulates is this kind of outdoor kind of lifestyle. And this, I know you're into, your hiking and your mountaineering and your outdoor kind of adventures and training to become more kind of robust and more rugged and more, resilient and all that stuff so you're not just training for aesthetics or to be good in the gym. You're really kind of training to then carry those components over into kind of real tangible outdoor kind of stuff. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at now. I mean, my view with training has always been, if I'm training for something very specific, then, obviously the training I do gets really dialed in like a laser into that particular outcome, whether it's training for the fan dance, massive endurance element, training for high altitude mountains, which was, endurance, but also, altitude exposure, national level powerlifter many years ago. So whenever I've done a particular goal, it's always been dialed in. But I'm a big believer that we don't necessarily have to train for something particularly big. We can just train to be just generally good across the board at a whole host of things, or capable is how I like to see it. And from my own perspective, as a human being, I like to have a kind of capability in myself that I know that if I want to go out and hike 10 miles, I can do that, and it's no big deal. I want to be able to do, a minimum of 5 chin-ups and pull up my body weight. I want to be able to lift heavy stuff and do well across the board. I want to kind of have the kind of body that can stretch to most goals quite easily with a little bit of laser focus when I've been working in a very general way that keeps my body, strong across the board, well conditioned, moves well, resilient, and all of those aspects.
So, and one thing that I did see you recently, where I think it was just last weekend, possibly, was that the Mace meetup, the kind of the UK meetup that happened? Because I saw that was on, and I was already, I think, was it the weekend just gone, or the weekend?
It wasn't last weekend. It was the weekend before. It was the Gathering, which is organised originally by a guy called Paul Tinley. It's his idea. And then he, alongside Valhalla Training, provided the space for that to happen. And a few of us were just kind of invited along to see if we wanted to come and take part. And it's the first big kind of UK Mayspell meetup. So that all came about, and it was a fantastic day. It was lovely to meet, a substantial amount of people in the mace community in the UK, which is growing slowly but surely, from various different coaches to lots of different enthusiasts, from people who've been doing it for a long time to people who've never done it before. And it was a real nice day of just being in and amongst people who were genuinely interested in Mayspell training and all things to do with that kind of modality.
Yeah, because I saw that was coming up, and when it was, and I know I got, what it's like. I got quite a few weekends racked up, and I was at the kettlebell, the pentathlon, the British pentathlon kettlebell at the weekend. So, congratulations! Obviously, we'll just quickly shout out to former guests on the show and friends of the show, Finn Bartulan, Gareth Malloy, who's going to come on the show, Lauren Emery, Ben Morris. All these guys and girls did absolutely brilliant, and most of them qualified to go to the World Championships in Hungary in November. So I was there. So then I can't and then this weekend we've got a couple of workshops with Claire from Strong First at Unique Results. So every weekend you could do something, can't you? And when you've got like a family, you kind of have to kind of rein in a little bit. But no, it looked brilliant. And you also had Sean there, didn't you, from Raw Form?
That's right. Yeah, he brought up a load of his different implements, from fire maces to massive swords to maces, all kinds of things.
I saw you actually swinging the sword that looked like it was probably as tall as you, and it was taller than me, actually. Taller than you. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
It was a really fun day, and it was fun. That's the first time I've met some of the kind of the more well-known faces in the UK who are to do with Mayspell, because, like you say, weekends get taken up, and it just these things quite often don't happen. So it was fantastic to meet some of these guys who I've been liaising with through Instagram and that for a long time now, and actually meet and spend some time with them. So it was a lovely day, actually, really fantastic day.
Yeah. What are you going to say, Pete? Sorry.
I was just going to say about Sean, it's hilarious. You watch him and he makes some like ridiculous stuff, and then like he disappears off like social media for a while, and then he turns up with this massive, massive stuff. He's obviously spent like 6 months making it or something, and then like, right, and I just love watching it because he's like, I don't know why I did this, but it's there.
Yeah. He's very kind of in the moment like that, isn't he? Just decides to do it and then gets on with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So you've been involved in kind of mace training yourself for quite a while. I think you did the when Mr. Mace Man came over like a number of years ago, at like the Commando Temple, didn't you?
Yeah, that was back in, it was when I was doing the fan dance at the time. So it was around about 2017, maybe latter part 2016, early part 2017. It was around about that time. And I'd been interested in mace training for a while. Obviously, I'd seen Rick doing what he does. And it was interesting for me because I thought it could kind of complement what I was doing with the fan dance stuff in terms of some overhead strength, mobility, that kind of thing. So that was how I got into it all those years ago. And I absolutely loved it as a training modality. And it was very different from the powerlifting I'd done, a lot of the kettlebell stuff. I liked the feel of the mace as this ability of it to be quite kind of relaxing and almost meditative, yet you can also get really strong in doing it as well. And so I'd been hooked on it ever since. And then my own experience with it was I could see how I wanted to coach others with it and the benefits it could have. And that led me to kind of put a few things together, like some of the workshops I do, the ebook that I sell for, which is like a 6-lesson course, which takes somebody who's never swung a mace before to being able to do a handful of fundamental traditional movements with a mace bell over 6 sessions. So that's how I got into it.
Excellent. Did you do that one as well, Pete? You did.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
You were at that one, weren't you? At the Commando Temple. It was Commando Temple, wasn't it?
Yeah. Paul Gray was there as well.
Right. Yes, it was. Yeah.
We had Paul on.
Kirsten Tulloch was there as well, friend of the show. Like, all these people come out of the woodwork. What I love about doing this show and just going to these things is you meet up with people and then you don't see them for years or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're back in the game, or like you cross paths with so many people.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Like I said, well, I mentioned Jonathan Haddock, who basically I haven't seen for years, and he just messaged me yesterday and said, I haven't really done a lot for the last 5 years. I'm thinking of coming to the Mace one, can you? And you just, so you kind of connected to these people, like you say, that you maybe don't see for 2 or 3 years, and then you meet them, you see them again at a course or a workshop or something, and it's really nice to catch up. So what will you be teaching on that one? So like I said, it's sort of fluid strength, mastering mace bell fundamentals. It's going to be a 6-hour kind of thing. We're doing 10 till 4 on the Sunday.
Yeah.
Who is it for? Is it for people who are brand new to never touched a mace before, or is it what kind of people are we looking to get there, do you think?
Yeah, so how I like to do these, James, is I like to start from grassroots level, because even I think when people are quite competent, it's always good to learn from new coaches. There's always new things to pick up. If people who have never done mace bell training before, they're going to pick up obviously a load of stuff. If people who do some mace bell training themselves, but maybe are coaches and want to coach other people, then they're going to learn, or have the opportunity to learn, a heck of a lot of ways in which I coach the mace bell to get somebody from, not being able to do it to being able to swing proficiency and complete loads of different exercises using the mace, some of which are traditional based. So obviously things like the 300, the 360. We're going to be putting in some single arm work in there as well. We're going to be covering some of the kind of key fundamental strength movements that I like to do that are just that little bit different, that is not flow. It's not your traditional circular movements, but they can be useful tools in the box that can work in really well with a kind of hybrid style training, combining, mace bell stuff with kettlebells or powerlifting, and all of these different ways in which the mace bell can be included in a really interesting way by offering and creating different diversity of training that is fun, challenging, but then also introduction to flow as well. So some very basic flows, some kind of key transitions and movements on how to kind of use a light mace for being able to move and use it as part of like a creative aspect of, some people like to express themselves creatively with a mace, or just use it as like a warm-up drill. So basically just looking at ways in which we can use the mace across the board, from a strength tool right the way through to mobility, right the way through to conditioning, and then a more kind of creative, restorative, meditative type movement. So it's 6 hours of just, as much stuff as I can throw at people. And also the way in which I tend to coach is things tend to be quite organic on the day as well, as so much as obviously I have a plan, But then that plan is also always subject to change based upon who's in the group, the kind of people we've got, how the group functions together. And so things kind of emerge from there as well, just based upon, what I think the group is going to benefit from the most as a collective whole.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, we'll kind of at the end of the podcast, we'll kind of give some details for people on how they can sign up for that, which will be great. And I see. So what do you think at the moment in terms of your kind of spread of work and how you sort of split your time? Do you do kind of online coaching workshops? I don't know if it's weekly, but you're also kind of at the Commando Temple doing coaching or workshops and stuff. So yeah, how's your time spread at the moment in terms of the coaching that you deliver?
Yeah, sure. So I do a fair bit of one-to-one face-to-face coaching from all kinds of different things, from people who have got pain and dysfunction and weakness in their body to people who are, competing at high level sport, people who want to learn specific things. So I've got a couple of clients at the moment training for Strong First in October. Then I've got the endurance aspect. I've got people who just enjoy training with me and being able to learn different skills, from parallel work to kettlebells to body weight to endurance to mace, bell, Bulgarian bag. So across the board, really, in terms of my face-to-face one-to-one, it's a real mix of people.
And are you still based down in Eastbourne?
Yeah, so I'm based in Eastbourne. But as you said, I also go up to London every week, and I'm up there on a Wednesday afternoon and into Thursday, and I coach a handful of clients up there on the weekly basis, which I really enjoy that variety. And it's nice being up in London, gives me a little bit more of a central location to operate. Then in addition to that, I do remote online Zoom coaching as well. So I've got a number of clients who I just see purely via Zoom. Another aspect I do is online remote programming. So these are people who I tend not to see face to face, but I take care of all of their programming based upon the goals in which they're training for. Some people do a mixture of that, where I might see them face to face or face to face on Zoom, but they also have their training provided through their remote programming as well. Then I've got workshops. So I do a series of workshops. I do a hybrid strength one up at the Commando Temple, which is kind of leans towards strong man, strong woman type stuff, but also within that it's hybrid in so much as we have some conditioning. We have some mace, bell, Bulgarian bag, body weight, kettlebells. Every session's different. It's a 3-hour workshop. And that just varies every time I do it. And it's really just kind of opening people's minds in how we can train in a fun way that's effective, that's a little bit different. It's not necessarily just barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells. It's combining all different training modalities and kind of allowing people to experience that, so they get to feel like what those things feel like, and therefore get a greater level of understanding through experience.
Is that something that you do? Is that like a monthly or an every other month or something? Because I know you do them fairly regularly.
Yeah, it varies. Yeah. So this year I'll do about 3 of those this year, because I've been doing more mace bell workshops and also mountain trips, which I'll come to on a minute. So yeah, the hybrid strength is one I've done a lot. This year I will have done 3-4 mace bell workshops. In addition to that as well, some of them are in London, some are over at Unique Results in Chelmsford, which I'm looking forward to that November one. And then in addition to that, I've also got the outdoor experience element as well, where I am qualified UK summer mountain leader. I take groups of people away for mountain-based experiences. And really that came about because where I live on the south coast, in terms of my client base down here, very few tend to go to the mountains because it's a long way to go. A lot of people don't really know where to go, and I wanted to kind of provide something that was a one-stop shop where everything gets catered for, the accommodations booked. I lead out on some guided hikes, and it gives people an experience that they might not normally have in the great outdoors, with like-minded people just having a bit of an adventure that they might not normally have. So I've been working on that and developing that more now. So I've got a new brand with that, which is Peak Experience UK. And that's going to be, I've got another mountain trip at the end of October, which is a Snowdonia-based mountain weekend. But my goal next year is to put on sort of 5 or 6 opportunities for adventure in various different places throughout the UK next year.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds, it's kind of aligned with a lot of the stuff we talk about, isn't it, Pete? You know, the kind of the walking that you do, huge amounts of that, and outdoors, and getting
get
people
yourself
out
out and
walking.
about and enjoy yourself. It's pretty much it.
I was watching the other day. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm just going to quickly check my phone because I wrote something down. I shared one of the things. Yeah, it was. Have either of you caught the? There's something on Netflix at the moment called Live to 100: Secrets of the Blue Zones. Have you seen that at all?
I've not seen it, but it's on my list to watch.
Yeah, I've watched the first 2 episodes, and I mean, most people have heard about this. You know, this kind of where they kind of look at the places in the world where there's the highest percentage of people who make it who reach 100 per 1,000 or per 10,000. You know, and the guy who wrote the original book is going round to. It's a really nice. It's a lovely program to watch because he's going to these. He goes to Okinawa in Japan. I saw him just go to. I think it was Sardinia on the one I watched yesterday. But it's beautifully filmed, and he goes to these different places and meets these people who are all like in their 90s or 100s, and kind of tries to pull commonalities of what they're doing to live healthy lives into their hundreds. And the one in Sardinia yesterday was they're all kind of like all the men there, which traditionally would be shepherds, and they live on a little town on the hillside. And they're constantly walking either uphill or downhill all their life, you know, and it's something to do with the altitude and also the fact that they're just up in the mountains like all day, every day, herding sheep, and it's really well worth a watch, you know. I mean, it touches a lot on, and the reason I was going to mention it as well to Matt was one of the quotes I wrote down was build the community around the activity. So it's kind of what you're doing with the Peak Experience UK. You know, you're kind of building a community of people around an activity. So you're getting the health benefits from and the adventure benefits from the activity, but then you're also making friends and having a community and getting all of that good stuff that comes alongside it as well, aren't you? Yeah,
that's the goal really. Is I just like to, you know, I know the things I enjoy in my life and the impact that they've had. And I kind of think it'd be lovely to share this with other people and hopefully give them similar experiences. And so that's kind of where it really comes from for me, is just doing something I'm passionate about and then sharing it with others. And then, you know, those people find you, come to you, and therefore you build that kind of community of like-minded individuals who connect over that common interest that they've got.
No, that's fantastic. And you mentioned it. I don't think you mentioned it on the podcast. I think it was just before we started recording, but the Peak Experience UK that you mentioned, like some kind of event you had a vision for doing, and you mentioned some lovely stuff with like yurts and camping, and you know what can you kind of just sort of lay out that kind of, I know it's not actually formalized yet, the broad vision, if you like, because it sounds incredible.
So I called it Peak Experience UK because at the moment, you know, one of the main experiences I provide is mountain based walking, outdoor walks, that kind of stuff. But really, you know, I'm kind of big into just providing people with experiences that are just that different to their normal day-to-day life. And so one of the things I would like to do is I've got a few contacts in this neck of the woods who run a yurt site, and, you know, where it is on the South Downs, it lends itself to outdoor-based stuff. So like a retreat weekend where we'll do some mace bell training and coaching, bit of hiking over the South Downs. They've got like fire pit there we can get in, you know, and there's space to do some yoga, some body work, some meditation type stuff. So it's really just kind of, at the moment it's in its infancy, but I've got this vision of just being able to create experiences for all kinds of different people to get involved in, but on the lines of outdoor themes, keeping things simple, getting back to kind of communication and, you know, people spending time together and chatting and just having fun in the outdoors, really, using all kinds of different methodologies and you know, interesting factions.
And leave your phone in your bag.
Leave your phone in your bag unless you want to take some pictures. Yeah, absolutely. But
unless you're taking photos. Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? I find that's that's the thing, isn't it? It's getting people away from screens and away from their phones, and connecting how we used to connect, you know, rather than sitting on mobiles.
Yeah, I think it's just breaking up the day-to-day norm, just helping people just to have an experience that isn't their normal day-to-day, and then hopefully enriching their lives, or them feeling enriched from that experience. And just, you know, whatever that gives that person, that, you know, maybe a good thing is always a good thing from my perspective.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of, again, we didn't talk about it last time because we concentrated more on the mountaineering stuff, but when you did your, I know it's probably a while ago now, it's probably a year, maybe longer ago, when you did your kind of your almost like your kind of body composition kind of phase, where you got really like lean, you trained really hard, like you say, one of those periods in your life where you kind of laser focused in on a goal.
Yeah,
got ready for this kind of photo shoot. What were, and we didn't get to talk about it last time, but what kind of inspired that, and what have you taken away from that going forward? And is it something that you would do again, or was it something that, well, I've done it once and that's enough, I learned from it what I wanted to learn, you know, I learned from it what I wanted to learn from it, and I don't need to do it again? Or talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, it's an interesting thing. So I'd always, from a very young age, I'd kind of been interested in bodybuilding, but I'd never really done it. I'd never really got super lean. I'm not a particularly lean individual. I don't walk around with 6-pack abs and stuff like that. And it's something that I kind of always felt I wanted to do, but just hadn't done it. Anyway, the previous year I'd done it. And when I did it, quite often when I achieve a goal, I sometimes reflect afterwards and think I probably could do that a bit better. And so sometimes I like to have a stab at a goal multiple times. Anyway, I'd kind of got in my head that that's what I wanted to do. But how the goal for last year came about, and it was about a year ago, was I was going through some personal stuff in my life. And actually what happened on reflection now is I can see where it emerged actually as a distraction. And I ended up taking on a goal which would take up so much time. It distracted me from this personal situation I'd got going on. So I can see that now, having come out the other side of it. But it was a goal that, you know, involved meticulous manipulation of my, you know, diet, nutrition, training. And it was a heck of a lot of training. It was all consuming, really. And while the process was great and I learned an awful lot in terms of how to achieve that kind of look, I think once I'd actually achieved it, on reflection, I thought, what has this actually given me? Is it's reinforced the fact that I can train towards a goal, which I'm very good at, you know, putting myself through whatever it takes to achieve a goal. But in this particular case, for the aesthetics, I realized it wasn't really aligned with actually who I am as a coach. It's not something I think is particularly healthy, or it wasn't for me. And so actually I came away from it thinking the juice wasn't worth the squeeze in the end. And so that's my biggest thing from it, was I was like, would I do that again? Absolutely not. Just no need to do it. It was something that really attached me to my body and the image of it, and is just not, for me, it just wasn't a healthy dynamic. And so actually coming away from that, and it took me a while to reverse engineer out of those patterns that led me into that. So in order to kind of relax a bit more about the food and all of this stuff, it took me a while to kind of desensitize to that and get into a more kind of relaxed and ordered way of eating and feeling okay about my body again, and not being so judgmental in terms of, like, you know, am I leaner, am I fatter, am I, you know, how am I looking? It was very self-centered, very, you know, and it's not, for me, it wasn't really it's not really how I want to be and how I want to live. So it kind of took me away really from what my kind of essence is in terms of my own coaching and how I like to live.
It's funny because I saw you doing that last year, and you're one of these guys online. So you know how people's online is like the highlight reel and all that sort of stuff. Yours is what you do, isn't it? What you do, what you post up is what you do. I mean, it's obviously not everything, but it's kind of like
yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, that's a completely different. It took me by. I was like, he's doing something, because you said you know, you were on all the machines and you were doing like quad.
Extensions and stuff.
All that sort of stuff, yeah. And I just thought that's a big departure. So the question I've got is, as you were doing it, so presumably you realized when you were going through towards the goal,
yeah,
actually this isn't really for me. But what did you want to give up and say, well, I don't need to reach this goal? Or was it like, no, I'm that person who reaches the goal? Or was it, I'm going to reach this goal and then take away from it what comes? You know what I mean? Because there's lots of things in there of people can be going towards a goal and not want it. So they can, there's nothing wrong with giving up if it's not what you want. And you can branch off or something, you know. So.
I think it with what happened with it, Pete, was I'd done, you know, for the previous years, it had all been about performance related goals for me. It had been the fan dance, it had been climbing Aconcagua, and that had really consumed 4 years of solid training for those events. Then I just wanted to have I just wanted to explore a different type of goal. So I chose the aesthetic one because it wasn't so much performance based. And it just felt like it was something I wanted to do. But I do remember my mentor at the time, a few weeks before the photo shoot, said, "Are you sure you want it? You don't have to carry on doing this. You can just stop it." And I knew I could stop it. But at that moment in time, I felt like I was too invested in the process to stop. And so I wanted to see it out through the end. With hindsight, I wished I'd stopped when my with me. Because it did cost me some things in my personal life that probably wasn't really worth, you know, the thing. But it was one of those that I felt like I needed to see it out to the end. But now coming out of it, I know, and this is what I'd say to my clients, is if something doesn't feel right, just stop doing it. You don't have to be, you know, you're not a quitter if you decide that you don't want to do something anymore. You're actually just being honest with where you're at. And so for me, it was a really useful process of seeing that part of myself that was very good at driving, seeing the part of me that was very good at hanging on to something, but also seeing outside of that now it's much easier to let stuff go if you just don't think it's going to be worth it in the end, or if it's going to set you back in some way, which, you know, doing hard events can do. You know, it can get you very injured and all kinds of stuff, and you have to kind of ask, is it really worth it? And probably
this is the other thing then. So, because obviously we talk about all the time that these, like when you do any endeavor in that, it changes you mentally and physically, right? It all goes together. So obviously you change physically.
Yeah.
But what did it do to you mentally? Because you're saying kind of like it's like a selfish type of goal, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is my observation in myself was it became all about how my body looks. Because it was an aesthetic goal. Of course, that's what it's about. But then what I found is it kept me very focused on my body, and I could feel myself building my identity, this like fake identity around this body of, you know, you're kind of flexing in the mirror on a regular basis and being really like hard on yourself in terms of, you know, how do I look? I need to be eating less, I need to be training more, I need to be doing this, that, and the other. And it's very like internally based, very, you know, attaching my like, oh, this is who I am on Instagram and all this kind of stuff, which actually is not me. I'm not into that kind of, I'm trying to move away from that, hey, look at me kind of thing.
I think that it's funny though, isn't it? The way that social media, the way Instagram, the way society maybe, because I mean, I don't know, this is just from the way I remember it at the time. Probably some of those, like you say, you got to the end, you had this photo shoot done and you looked, you know, for what you were going for, you looked amazing, you know, for that. And but at the time you knew, like you say, well, this actually isn't me, and this, I'm not happy doing this. But you probably got, from those photos you posted up, you probably got more adulation and more likes and more comments and more praise, and you know, than you've ever had, you know, because it's that look on Instagram. It was kind of like, wow,
very visual, isn't it?
You must have got all of that adulation that I saw coming your way.
Yeah.
And you must have thought, well, yeah, so it's strange because that's not, like you say, it was all on the surface, wasn't it? And deep down you weren't happy or fulfilled, or didn't feel particularly good, didn't feel particularly healthy at the time, but looked sort of this certain way that kind of we're almost all you know, trained that, well, that's how you should look, that is a good look, you know. So it's really interesting.
It's what's interesting for me as well with it is yes, you kind of, I had a similar experience when I competed in the fan dance, and when I pulled out a really good time. I remember sitting on the finish line and thinking, well, I'm really proud of the time I've done, but it actually changes nothing. It's not going to change my life in any way. And the same thing happened after the photo shoot. As I remember getting home on that day and going, this is, I'll post a picture and it'll get a load of likes, but it's probably not going to bring me in a ton of extra business. It's not going to change a thing. Loads of people will like it. It's not going to change their lives because it'll be forgotten about in 10 seconds. And it's one of those that I think sometimes we can get really attached to a goal thinking that that's going to give us something. And we can learn loads of stuff in that process of working towards that goal. But once it's actually done, what does it fundamentally change? Does it really change anything? Does it add to anything in any particular way? And quite often I think we can think it will. And then we get there and it's like, actually, you don't really feel very much once it's achieved. Because as they say, it's all about the journey there and the things you learn. But so that was my take from it. Really, it was a great thing to achieve, and I'm proud of the achievement that I had. But I've learned way more out of that process about not needing to do that ever again, and not needing that level of deprivation and all of those things that go into achieving a body like that lasted for a few weeks before you then start to want to eat in a normal way, in a way that's not so restrictive.
Yeah,
It's sometimes as a coach, because like what's great is you said your coach said you don't have to do this, by the way.
Yeah.
You don't, that is brilliant for a start.
Oh, yeah.
But also as a coach, sometimes you have to go through things and know the experience, so you know whether other people are going to want to go through it or not, whether the type of person, because you get to know people, don't you? And then you'd be like, if someone says I want this, and you go, right, but here's what it's going to take. Are you ready for that? And you can be really you can talk from experience rather than just saying, let's do it, and then they fall apart. But what that's also made me think of as well, so linking this back to the peak experience stuff, is I did the 15 peaks in Snowdonia, like 2019, I think it was. And I loved that. It was amazing. That was over 3 days. But people do that in like 12 hours or something, don't they? And I'm like, that's great as a goal. But I remember talking to people about it as I was doing it over the weekend. I was like, it's great because you get to stroll up a mountain, walk around, have a look at the view and all that. But if you're doing it in 12 hours, you just leg it and you don't notice anything, I suppose. So it's the difference between that. What does it add to your life? And then it's easier to do. For me, it was like 3 full days of enjoyment rather than a 12-hour.
Yeah.
And then recovery. So yeah, I think that's it.
All just different experiences, isn't it? It depends what you want to experience. If you want to go and experience, lovely scenery and be able to take it all in, then that's one thing that you can get. If you want to experience how quick can I do it, how hard can I push myself, somebody else is going to go for a different experience. It's all different, isn't it? Everybody's so unique. We're all wired in different ways with our, preferences and so on. And for me, it was a great process of learning what isn't for me.
And what's the kind of is there a current goal or something that you're kind of? I know you're very focused on you sound like you've been very focused on the business and developing Peak Experience UK. Is there anything on the horizon for you physically that you're looking at as a challenge or as a goal or as a direction over the next I don't know, 12, 24 months, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the moment, this year it's been an interesting year because just before Christmas, I've found an inguinal hernia, which I wasn't bargaining for, just randomly found it one day, didn't even know how or when it happened. But it was not there one day and then it was there a few days later. So anyway, I had that operated on in February, end of Feb. And so that was a real process, a very interesting process of feeling vulnerable, not feeling fit, feeling, really not in a, not in a way I'm used to feeling. And really felt like, I didn't train they give kind of a 6-week no lifting thing, but I really wanted to let my body heal. And I was also mindful of the fact of how much I'd been asking for my body in the previous 6 years and how much I'd pushed it. And I kind of saw the hernia coming through as a way really of my body asking for a bit of a rest. And so I kind of embraced that I didn't really train for the best part of about 10 weeks. And then I just started to introduce a little bit of cardio. And I remember going out for my first run and it's like, God, I feel like I'm at ground zero again. And I felt so far removed from the version of Matt that was there knocking out the fan dance in 3.5 hours. So really, I've just been kind of rebuilding my fitness, but understanding that, my body had, pretty significant surgery back in February, obviously a ton of chemicals put in it in terms of the anesthetic and so on. And so I've just been taking it easy really this year, just gradually building my fitness back up, building in a bit of strength, working on some mobility. But really my kind of long-term goal is to get back into the running and get my running fitness back. So that's kind of where I'm at. But equally, being able to do my body weight training, my mace bell, I like doing the ergs. So it's just a bit of a blend at the moment of training I enjoy without it being particularly savage or hard or anything like that. It's kind of much more nurturing really this year. I'm trying to heal my body really at the moment.
And when I see you online training with the ergs outside, they're almost like on a kind of a balcony or something with like a
terrace,
yeah. How is that? Is that at your house? Is it?
Yeah. So I've got a flat. I'm very fortunate to have it's probably the best part of an 8-meter terrace outside. I'm the only flat that's got one of these, and it overlooks the back garden. So I've got in my flat during when lockdown and that happened, I bought a load of kit from my studio and just keep it in my flat. So I've got a bike erg, I've got a ski erg, I've got some kettlebells, maces, and I just keep them at my flat all the time. So I love going out when the weather's suitable, taking the ergs outside and just doing that and getting a bit of a tan at the same time.
What I love about that is you've got this massive terrace. I say massive, it's like a big terrace. Yeah. The only one who's got it. And there'll be loads of other people going, God, you could get lovely flowers and plant pots on there. And you're out there like pulling on a ski.
Yeah. I've got some people who live across the way, and I always see them in the kitchen overlooking, and I project that they're going, oh, here he is again. Look at him. What's he doing today? He's swinging something around his head, and now he's like he's like a demented monkey on a ski erg, and now he's on a bike, and now he's doing pull-ups. And I just think one of these days I'm going to bump into him in the street and go, oh yeah, you're that crazy bloke who's always doing stuff on his terrace.
When we were staying in the lakes, we were staying in this place, the Troutback Inn, and it's got rooms upstairs, but it's got rooms opposite as well.
Yeah,
like cottages. And it was carpet inside, and I needed to do some heavy-ish pistol squats, and I couldn't do them on the carpet. It just didn't feel right, and there was no other space to do stuff, so I had to go outside. But there was other cottages and stuff, and the pub was overlooking it. So I was like, I went out and had a look around. And I was like, there's nobody around, so I did some pistols and then scurried back in. And the landlady that evening, I went in for a pint, and she was like, "We were laughing at you out the bedroom window this morning."
Yeah.
So yeah, you've just got to get over it, haven't you?
It's fun, isn't it? It's one of those things. If you're providing somebody a bit of entertainment, then that's all good.
Yeah, it's probably the bloke standing at the window going, "I wish he'd stop doing that. You're making me look bad." He's missing his life.
Yeah, yesterday we were outside, me and Steph, we were filling up these I bought these 3 sandbags, and I had 100 kilo sandbag to fill up, and Steph was outside with me, and we had five 20-kilo bags of sand, and we were at the front of the house, and I'd had it on the pavement almost, and we filled up this 100-kilo sandbag, and then I couldn't get it off the floor to get it in the truck because I'd filled it up on the floor. And I was out there for about 5 minutes trying to lift because it's got no handles on it. I can't get my fingers under it. I just couldn't get it onto to lap it, to bring it up. And then Steph and me ended up getting it up into the truck sort of together. And then one of the neighbours today goes, "How heavy was that?" I didn't see anyone. Obviously, people were looking, not thinking, "What are they bloody doing out there?" He goes, "How heavy was that sandbag?" I said, "Oh, it's 100 kilos." He goes, "Go on," had a chat. Thought we were mad, dear me. So Matt, we'll start to wrap up. I know you've got a client coming on in about 7 or 8 minutes, so we'll start to wrap up. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you again, obviously November the 12th in Chelmsford at Unique Results for the Fluid Strength Mastering Mace Spell Fundamentals Workshop. So it's going to be 10 till 4, so it's going to be a nice sort of not too early start, not too late finish on the Sunday. And I presume you'll just drive up on the Sunday morning, will you, from Eastbourne? Yeah,
I'll drive up from Eastbourne, bring a load of maces up.
Yeah.
Everybody who attends gets a certificate of attendance as well. So if there are coaches who want to use that as, they can get insurance with it and that kind of thing, then that's part of the deal as well. So
excellent. And I'll go through. I'll let you know what I've got as well in terms of maces. I've got loads now, so we don't, so you don't have to bring too many. But yeah, what we're going to do is, because we knew that this is actually this podcast. If you're listening on the day that it comes out, which I'm sure you are because you're all avid fans and listeners. It will be Friday, the 22nd of September today. So we have extended there's an early bird discount on there, or a super early bird discount, which we've extended till Monday, the 25th of September. So then that's just £97 if you book up until midnight on Monday, the 25th of September. And then it will go up to 127 for the next month, and then it will go up after that. Okay, so but we'll put a link in the show notes, Pete. Can we?
We can, and I will say it because I'm not involved in any of this. You're running it, James, and it's Matt's thing. 97 quid is cheap as chips, so get involved.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's why we thought, because I said to Steph, I said, well, because we've got you coming on, there's that we might as well we'll extend the super early bird discount to Monday if people are listening to this as it comes out, which is great. So we'll get all of that sorted out. We'll be sharing the link for signing up, and also if you want to go on to the Health Oddity Instagram page, it's on the in the bio. There's a link on there that you can find to sign up as well, which will be great. So no, that'll be really fantastic. And just another thing about Commando Temple, you're there regularly. We were at the disabled strongman strongwoman event with Nadine Guy, weren't we? The other weekend. Yeah. Do you ever see her at the Commando Temple when you're there?
She's up there on a regular basis because the temple's got so many coaches who operate from there now. But yeah, Nadine is a great coach. She's up there. I see her pretty much every week, so she's a strong feature of the gym.
Yeah, no, she was great because she brought loads of Pete and I were assisting at the Disabled Britain's down in Chard, Somerset a few weeks ago, and she's obviously kind of sponsored by these kind of supplement companies and stuff, and she bought loads of like energy, these protein bars and drinks and all this stuff for the crew, which was great, and she was absolutely lovely. So no, that was great, brilliant. Okay. So if people want to come along in November to meet you, Matt, and to do that workshop, that'll be fantastic. But obviously all the other stuff that you do, you've mentioned obviously the various workshops, the stuff you do in London, the peak experience, the kind of mountain experiences that you're going to kind of put more together for next year. What's the best way for people to kind of stay in touch with you and to kind of keep an eye on all the stuff you do?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram on Coaching Shaw. Also, I've got another Instagram account, Mayspell Training UK and Peak Experience UK. And then my website is coachingshaw.co.uk. Those are the best places to keep up to date with what I've got coming up.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I don't follow the Peak Experience one. Is that a new one that fairly new?
That's a new one. Yeah, I've launched that a couple of weeks ago now.
Yeah, so I'll get on there and give that a follow after we wrap up today. Fantastic, brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Matt, for coming back on. It's been lovely to catch up with you. And like I say, it's only going to be, what are we getting towards the end of September? So it's only a couple of months' time, and then I'll be seeing you in person again, which should be great. So thank you very much, Pete. Anything before we wrap up?
No, it's all sorted. Keep on doing what you do. I love it.
It's nice, good.
I'm doing similar thing, but on a small part, just by getting people to go out for a walk. But I don't know what I did find funny was you said that Living Till 100 thing is on your list of things to watch. I can't see how you're going to have time to watch that with all the stuff that you do.
I'm very selective on what I watch. Very selective.
Yeah, it's good because they're only like I don't watch a lot of telly. They're only like 30 to 45 minutes per episode. So just if you want to watch something that you don't want to be sat there all day, but it's just quite a nice little thing to watch, and they're quite inspiring as well. And like I say, they're lovely to look at as well. All these different places around the world. Brilliant. So thank you for joining us again. We have got some big episodes coming up over the next few weeks, including the world first, where we're going to be bringing Dan John and Phil Maffetone together on a podcast for the first time in history. That will be in a few episodes' time. But thank you for listening. Please do share, like, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to do so. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and give our Instagram a follow. And if you would like to join the Health Oddity group on Facebook, just go into groups, type in Health Oddity, click to join on there, and one of us will let you in. We will see you next week for episode 161. See you then. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favourite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.